Previously on Unpacked.
I never thought my daughter could be at harm's way. I was then told that Chuma is no more.
No mother should ever have to go through that.
And I said, it is well
With my soul.
with my soul. And I wept.
Monica Ndindwa is a mother who lost her daughter Chumalethu to a drowning in the family pool. This is part 2 of the conversation. Let's continue to unpack. So, when did they eventually come and take her?
It took more than 3 hours of me sitting with my daughter's dead body, not letting go, for the pathology car to come, and they took her. And
So the whole time you didn't have your own family members with you because they live far.
yes,
At some point, did you phone them or you hadn't even got to that part yet?
I have not even gotten to that part yet, but
And where was your husband at the time?
he was at work, on his way to work, and he worked quite a bit far from his home. So he arrived maybe 2 hours before they came to collect her.
And was he told on the phone?
He was, as I hear, he was told on the phone. But as much as in disbelief that I was also in disbelief, he came and witnessed everything. And what hurts me the most in the story is that, my father-in-law at the time said no one should be blamed. That was his first word of comfort to me.
What did you take that to mean? Why do you think he said that?
Because he knew that, according to our laws, someone needed to be held accountable for what had happened. And he knew that police would need to be informed and someone would need to be arrested.
And what are they being arrested for?
For negligence. Negligence. For me, it was negligence. It was negligence of the utmost. It was negligence because there is no way you can be with an infant or a toddler and you would not check on them for 30 minutes. 30 good minutes.
Who, and I mean, these are details that maybe you only got later.
Yeah.
Who was it that took her out of the pool?
It was the paramedics.
So no one in the house at the time
Yeah.
was actually able to get into the pool and take her out.
Yes.
So they saw her and they obviously knew,
Yeah.
called for help.
Yeah.
The paramedics came,
Yes.
and then at some point they were told time of death and all those things, and that's when they came to get you.
Yes.
So while you were home or at the house, waiting for the pathologist to come and collect her, and obviously by law has to be a government mortuary so that they can perform an autopsy.
Yes.
In that time, your husband at the time comes.
Yes.
How did he react when he arrived?
He was as distraught as I was. But a part of me also blamed him. A part of me also said, not in a way that he foresaw what would have happened, but a part of me, because I had insisted the last day that we left Kuma, that why don't we take her home and then let's look after her. And I was full of blame. I was saying, you are the cause of all of this, and this is now your family. And according to me, I'm not trying to be better or anything, but I'm also saying that there is no way my mom would leave my daughter unattended for 30 minutes. Instead, she will sleep on her lap or sleep or where she's directly looking at her. Fine, we do not have a pool in my home, but I'm just saying that anything could have happened. But a part of me, I did not want any consolation from her. I did not want any comfort from him. All I could see was the family that brought me the hardest and most difficult of my time. I had buried siblings before. I had, I lost so many people in my family. But for me to lose my child, it was so unreal.
Your baby.
My baby, my last born.
And I can completely sympathize with where that feeling of blame comes from, because it's not that a person went out of their way to do something to your child, but that feeling of it was not necessary. This didn't have to happen.
Yes.
And you've got so many questions about this could have been closed or this could have been locked.
Yes.
You could have been checking or been in the same room, whatever
Yes.
it was.
Yeah.
And I think that possibly is what makes accepting it that much harder.
Yes.
Because it seems so easily preventable.
Yes.
So now, when the pathologist took your baby away, what then happened next?
They told us to come back in 3 to 4 days. We went with the father. It was here in Braamfontein. And he said he's not going in. I went in.
So had he seen her at the house?
Yes. He
So
saw her at the house.
He saw her at the house. But
Yes.
before you get to the part where you were there,
Yes.
what was the point where now you had to call your family and tell them? When did that happen?
It was immediately after the pathological left. And my first point, because my mother's quite old, I said, I'm not going to call my mom. I'll call my older sister. And I told my sister, I could not even hold the phone for 5 minutes. And I said, Zandile, this is what has happened. She screams. And I dropped the phone. And then my sister then told my mother. In all this, it was still so unreal. But I knew I had to drum up the strength, because so much that needed to be done. It was not only burying my daughter, it was also accepting that I'm not going to see my little girl anymore, accepting that even though she's no more, how do I explain it to my son that her little sister has passed on? And
How old was he at the time? Because she was 4.
yeah, she was 4. He was 8. And he was also at school. So they brought him just before, and he came also just before the pathologist car came. And
who had collected him?
it was one of the family members. And they collected him from school, and he came, but they did not bring him to the pool side first. And I said to them, I would want to be the one that breaks the news to my child that Ukuma is no more. I remember telling Utoni, and Tony says to me, no, it can't be, Mommy. It cannot be. It cannot be. It can't be. Kuma, why? Kuma, why? And I can't answer because
I also don't know.
I also don't know. And we gave him sugar and water. just to come in a little bit down. And we took him to the poolside. I took him. And my son says, "She's so cold, Mommy. She's so cold." And for me, that broke me even far worse than what I was feeling. I had so much hurt in me that no one could not understand. How do I keep going on for this young boy who's 8 years old? How do I comfort him when I cannot even comfort myself? How do I say, Tony's going to be fine, but how is it going to be fine?
And I think the worst part is when you become a mother, when you become a parent, there are books, everybody has advice to prepare you. It's so abnormal, it's so unusual because we know kids to bury their parents. For you now to have to deal with a reality nobody has a manual for.
And immediately I called on my mother and said she must come because she's always been my pillar of strength. And I said, you need to come immediately because I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to sit on a mattress at a young age that I'm at. I have not even reached my 30. I was as a young mother of 2 and I just didn't understand.
And how old were you again at that time?
At the time, in 28, I was 26 when my daughter passed away.
Which is very young.
Very young. And remember, I married young. I had my children young. For me, it was the life. But I never knew that even at the time, there was so much cracks that were even starting to show in our union. And this just sealed it. For me, this just sealed it because I didn't understand how we can say we're putting someone in your care and you then tell me that the person is no more. I didn't understand. And then the reaction I get from the family is that no one should be blamed. I felt there was no support structure for me for what I was going through.
Do you feel like, and maybe let me ask this question first. You explained that when you went to the government mortuary, which is part of the process, you went with your then husband.
Yes.
And he said he's not going inside, so he didn't go in with you.
No, he didn't.
What was his reason that he gave to you?
He was not ready to see his little girl lying down. But I went in because it's something that I knew that I had to do.
Did you go alone?
It was me and him and the sister. And so eventually he came in with the sister. I remember I asked where were the clothes that she was wearing on the day. They took the clothes.
What does that mean?
They stole the clothes.
From where?
At the mortuary. I didn't get my daughter's clothes that she passed on in, and which was very significant for me. Okay, I let it go. He says, I then say, I'm going to go look at the body. When I go look at the body, she's been cut up. And I say to the person who works at the mortuary, can I please see what is written on this report that you... And I asked them, why was she cut up in such a manner?
Yes.
And
As in, it wasn't the type of cutting
that
for an autopsy.
Yes.
Like it wasn't neat.
It wasn't neat.
Yes.
It was not neat. Like, for an example, she had a cut here, right under her heart. She had a cut all throughout, which I understand that one, because that is the cut that all of us will have, or that person has. And she had a cut on her forehead, all around her forehead. And I then said, let me understand something. And from here upwards, they had just stitched as if, it was just...
No dignity.
No dignity. And at the top, she was not stitched well.
So
it was a little bit open. And I could see that my daughter's organs are missing. I remember asking this guy, he never gave me a straight answer. I said, to my understanding, for you guys to remove any organs, you need to have my consent. His response was, in some of the accidents, we do take the organs that we feel. No.
No, it's
you
illegal.
Cannot. It's illegal.
You need the permission.
You need the permission from me.
But also, why would you take organs if by the time she was found, she had been in the water for about 30 minutes? That means that the organs are not usable.
Yes.
They're not viable.
Yes.
So in my mind, the use of those organs is not necessary.
Is nil and void.
What do you think they took the organs for?
I'm not going to speculate or say anything, but according to my understanding, some of her organs were still usable. And perhaps someone needed a heart. I'm just hypothetically speaking, because I never really followed up on it, because I was so hurt at the time and concentrating on burying my daughter that I never really got to inquire and say, but what you guys did is wrong. It only ended in me telling them that what you guys did is wrong. So to my understanding, they took what they felt was usable. They took what they felt they could use for someone else's child, or they could, so many thoughts were going through my mind. And there's illegal trade that we're dealing with of human organs. There is so much that we're dealing with in this day and age. And I'm then saying that if it was to save someone else, perhaps that was Kuma's assignment
on this earth.
On this earth.
Yeah.
That she came here to give another 4-year-old her heart. And it has always been my prayer that, God, may you reveal to me one day before I leave this earth that who has my daughter's heart? Who has the organs that they've taken from my daughter? Perhaps my assignment as the mother was to carry her and be with her for 4 years. So as much as it was illegal, I felt that she had done something good even in her death.
So at the end of that whole experience, and I can understand why you didn't pursue it, because it would have taken energy you maybe didn't have at the time, or required a capacity of you didn't have available.
Yeah.
Did your husband end up going to see her on that day?
He ended up going to see her. And because now the undertakers of the people that were actually the ones who were going to run the burial came to collect the body, and he saw her. And I remember even a day prior to the funeral, I went with him to the mortuary with the undertakers. I had to dress her up. And I washed her, I dressed her, I combed her hair, and still he couldn't go inside. I did that all on my own. For me, it was not only about making sure that dressing it up and everything, but it was also, for me, I needed to have the healing. And for me to heal, I needed that last part of it. I needed to know that I am there. And I needed to do something as her mother. And for me, that was not necessarily closure for me, but it was something that I could hold on to, say that I did this for my daughter. I could not protect her. I failed her. And the people that were around her on that day failed her. Because I felt the grandmother failed her. But I also needed to forgive. And I forgave the grandmother.
Did she feel responsible? Is it something that she was like, I am sorry I allowed this to happen?
No. My ex-husband's family never felt they had the responsibility. Because also, the pool needed to be netted. It's illegal for you to have a pool without either a wall or a net over it. And the explanation that the grandfather said that there was going to be maintenance on that day. So that is why there was no net on it.
So they did have a net, it just wasn't on.
They did have a net, it was not on. And for my knowledge, the net was not there for a few days. It was not just this specific day. So his explanation was to cover up and protect themselves. And I felt no support from that family in that regard. And, I remember my ex-husband saying, even though, everything happened, but at least because the family opted to pay for the funeral. I then say, I wonder, is it the guilt that is making you guys pay for my daughter's funeral, or did I say that I could not afford to pay for my daughter's funeral? And he became so defensive. And I said, these are the things that we need to ask. These are the questions that we need to know.
It's so complicated, the number of layers of things you had to go through. First, losing your daughter, losing her under those circumstances, under the care of your, then husband's family, then have to deal with organs being stolen and the body basically, there's a term which I can't remember right now, but basically being brutalized, post-mortem, which is illegal in itself, but also just takes away the dignity. Then you having to go through dressing her up, all those things while she's in that state, by yourself, without your husband at the time by your side. Would you say that losing your daughter and that whole situation is what ended your marriage?
For me, it was an addition, but this one sealed it.
Yeah.
And it ended things between us. Because already, as I had said earlier on, marrying young is not easy. Whoever says it's easy is because they don't tell you everything.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that there are going to be ups and downs. All they say that no matter what, stay in your marriage. No matter what, respect your husband. No matter what, you stay through it, stay through the pain. But we are never told of the other part, which for me this just sealed it for me because I felt I had no support from him. I could not even cry to him. He could not understand how I would relieve myself. I would start writing down. And which one day when I'm ready, I'm going to release a book in my daughter's honor because I wrote a lot and it helped me with my healing.
Is it possible that maybe he was unable to support you the way you needed because he himself was not in a place where he was dealing with the reality? Is that possible?
It's possible. It's possible. Because we all deal with pain in different ways. We all deal with loss in different ways. Perhaps his withdrawal was his way of dealing with what had happened. But I saw it as something else because I needed that stepping stone to say that you're my husband, you should be there. I expected the love and the care. He knew how I was at the time, and I felt that he was just not there.
I think also it's the reality that the only person that can feel the pain of losing your child with you is the other parent.
Yes.
Much as everybody around can sympathize.
Yes.
Being a parent who's lost a child, that's the only other person who was going through it with you at the time. And I've heard in many cases where couples will lose a child and it ends up breaking them. Their marriage does not necessarily survive that. So where would you say you are today?
Today, I speak about it to encourage other women who have lost children. I have become a pillar to many. Some say I've got great strength, but I always say because of my Christianity, because of my backbone as a Christian, I always fall back to what I know and to what I understand. And I sometimes see young girls. She would have been, I think, 14. And I look at 14-year-olds and I'm like, wow. Kuma would be this age. And I wonder what she would sound like. Where I'm at is at a healing point where I'm the first person to jump when I hear that a parent has lost a child because I know that pain. And I don't want anyone to go through that pain without having that support to say that I will walk it with you. I'm the first person to say, I will walk the journey with you, not because I know, but because I know exactly what it can do to your spirit. It can break you. And some parents don't even make it.
And how is Tony doing today?
Tony, he just turned 16 on the 1st of July. And Tony is still very hard for us to go to the cemetery. Tony still says, in his room, he still keeps a huge picture of Kuma in his room. But because God gave me the son that I have, because he knew of what I would be going through, he is so strong. Sometimes I go to the cemetery and I start weeping and he will pat me in the back and hold me so tight and say, but mommy, don't cry. It is well. But I can see inside in his voice, he's weeping, he's crying, he's screaming, but he's comforting me.
Do you feel her with you?
All the time. And I remember the first year I had asked God, can I just see her one more time? Even if it's my dreams, can I just see her? Can I just see her? And I never saw her. And it was only after 2 years of her passing, I saw her in my dreams. And I was like, thank you for at least reminding me that she is with me and she's looking out for us, because I've always said that Kuma had a role to play in our lives to the way she played, to the way she, her bubbly, personality, to some of the certain things that she did. So I feel her every day.
I think you are exceptionally brave to be able to share this story. I imagine you never get over it. You just learn to live with the pain. And I doubt it will get easier or become easy for you to share this story. But I am so grateful that you felt okay to come here and to talk to us about this. There's so many things we can take out of your story just about being safe, especially with children around water, and also just what you were able to go through. I hope we can be inspired by your strength and your courage and your bravery. Monica, thank you so, so much for coming to share your story.
Thank you for having me once again. And I hope that the story will change and bring encouragement to someone's life.
These kinds of stories are not at all easy, to share, also to listen to. So my heart goes out to all of you, love and light to all of you that know the kind of pain that she's dealing with. Losing a child is absolutely unimaginable. But also just to dedicate this episode to all the little ones that died in swimming pools in those terrible accidents. It is extremely sad having to live through that kind of reality and that kind of pain. So my heart goes to all of those. And of course, this episode for us to remember that there are so many women, so many dads, so many parents that have to live the reality of losing a child through drowning. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night. Next time on Unpacked.
As I switched the radio on, they said news just in, Westner takes bullet right side to the head.
I ask myself each day, why didn't I act sooner?
Was there a note or anything that could have indicated what his thoughts and feelings were at the time?
I wish maybe in a dream or whatever, he can still come back and say, Auntie, this is what had happened.
The decision to take his own life was made by him.
Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcasts weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up to S3.